All right, everybody. This is Jeff Gibby over at MetaStock. Thanks for coming tonight. I hope you're doing well. Hope you're enjoying the winter. Personally, I'm glad it's starting to warm up. But thanks for coming. We have a pretty good, we have a great speaker right here in the office today. And he's going to talk a little bit about a product that he's developed and all that kind of stuff. I'm going to sit here and help him moderate. I had to say, Robert, though, I enjoy it when you come in because we can kind of sit here and just kind of, it's a lot more interactive than it is normally.
You've got the banter going back and forth.
Exactly, exactly. So, in any case, let me go ahead and read this out loud. I know it's your favorite part. We'll get right to it. Today's demonstration is designed to instruct you on using MetaStock and the accompanying software plugins. It's not a recommendation to buy or sell, but rather guidelines to interpreting and using specific indicators and features within the software. The information, software, and techniques presented today should only be used by investors who are aware of the risk inherent in trading. MetaStock should have no liability for any investment decisions based on the use of the software, any trading strategies, or any information provided in connection with the company. So glad you enjoyed that. I think I've said that probably like 700 times now. I've got it memorized. I want to talk a little bit about Robert. Robert is an ex-MetaStock employee.
Long time ago. Long time ago.
I remember that that was a long time ago. I've been here for 20 years, and I think you were there for like a year or two when I started.
Yeah, it was almost 2 decades ago that I left, yeah.
So he's left. I remember we used to have a lot of healthy discussions about kind of the pitfalls of optimizing system variables in a system test and all kinds of different stuff. But one thing that I can say about Robert is he's very, very smart as a technician. This is not the first product that he's created for MetaStock either. He's created Performance Systems Plus, which is our best-selling product of all time. We just looked up that back about 6 months ago or so, and he sold more copies of Performance Systems Plus than any of the other add-ons have sold in terms of unit copies. It's a really, really cool add-on. People really, really liked it because it was a huge collection of systems and something that you could just throw in the system tester and test a whole bunch of ideas. And he did a lot of really good work on it. He's created also Trade Oracle, if you're familiar with that product, and Triangle 2. And to kind of, my point is he knows what he's doing. He knows how to create products that people really like and then buy. And the genesis of this product, Robert and I ran into Robert randomly at Traders Expo in Vegas. Was this this was 2 years ago?
This was not the last one, but the one before that.
Yeah. So 2 years ago, and he's like, oh, I kind of have some ideas in terms of what I want to do. I said, Robert, you create stuff that people like. I'd love to have you create something. And so that's where Ichimoku Master came into play. So in any case, if I wanted to say a few things about Robert, he's probably at least 50% smarter than I am, maybe 60. But he's also a great technician, and he kind of knows how to design a product that's relevant and that really kind of breaks things down. We did send this off to Stocks and Commodities. They reviewed it for us. Barbara Starr reviewed it. She liked it a lot. It was a very, very positive review. So he's going to talk a little bit about what Ichimoku is and kind of show you exactly how this works. I'm going to sit here. If you have questions, I'm going to be watching the questions. If it's kind of important, I'll kind of nudge Robert and we'll kind of address it right at the moment. If I feel like it can wait till the end, we'll wait till the end. So let's go ahead and let you get started, Robert.
Okay, well, thank you. One of the things I'm going to do is talk a little bit about the history of Ichimoku. I don't know as far as to the knowledge level of the people involved in this session right now, so I'm going to kind of make some assumptions that there isn't a lot of knowledge about what's going on. Ichimoku has become a very popular trading methodology over the last probably 10 years or so in the Western world. Actually, probably since I guess around the beginning of the millennia is when it's kind of started to pick up, but it's not new or by any means at that time. Ichimoku was released to the public back in, if I remember, 1968, which makes this right here its 50th anniversary of being publicly available. It was originally designed by a guy who kind of went by Ichimoku Sanjin. That wasn't his actual name, but he was a journalist in Japan, and he wanted to do work to figure out if there was a way to increase your probability in the markets. Now, this was being done in the Japanese markets at that time. But what he basically did, starting, I think it was around the 30s, 30s to 40s, no, it was the 30s. He was working with interns and had these interns over all of these years poring over charts, trying to find what were consistencies, what works, trying variations. Basically, you could kind of think it almost as optimization, but being done by hand. Trying to figure out what works and what doesn't, and what kind of variations and ideas somebody could come up with. The nice thing about it is, while it has that concept of optimization, it's more optimized for markets as a whole as opposed to any individual product. Now, that doesn't mean it necessarily works all the time, and because there isn't any system that does. There are no holy grails, but it certainly has a lot of advantages that you just don't see anywhere else. And it's very powerful in that sense. Now, when we think of Ichimoku, the idea behind it is basically looking off at a distance, equilibrium at a distance. You're kind of trying to take all of the whole image of what's happening. I kind of call it like the gestalt of what's happening in the markets. You're not just looking at whatever the current price is, but you're looking at what prices have done. You're looking at where prices may go or should be expected to go for some reasons. And you look at it on different levels. And this was one of the things that he had done when he released it to the public. One of the things that it's really interesting about it is its indicator lengths for what it's using. The reason I bring that up is because this was designed around the Japanese system of markets, and the Japanese system has 6 trading days of the week in it as opposed to 5 that the Western markets do. So in his evaluation, he uses time periods for a week and a half and 1 month that equate to Japanese markets, where we, like I said, work on different amounts. They'll use, for example, 26 periods to represent the month as opposed to 21 or 22, which we use. Interestingly enough, that those periods, even though they were designed around Japanese markets, tend to work very well even in Western markets. So it's very powerful that it's been able to be maintained for that long. And in the indicators that are provided in Ichimoku, people have gone out of their way to try and test different variations, different lengths, different sizes, do all of the adaptations. And one of the things that seems to be fairly consistent among all the people is that in general, we can create better optimizations for a particular thing, but overall, we cannot make the system better. So they usually resort back to the indicator lengths that Ichimoku came up with himself. And we're going to go ahead and talk about exactly what that is, give you a little bit of a training as to how Ichimoku works, what it is, because while it's very heavily used, it's something that a lot of people haven't necessarily been exposed to. And unfortunately, when you look at it, it can be really confusing. There's a lot of information on a chart, a lot of lines all over the place, and this throws people off. Fortunately, Ichimoku Master actually clears a lot of that up. But before we get to that, let's give you a kind of a rundown about what Ichimoku is and how it works. Now, here we've got displayed an Ichimoku chart, and this is the traditional display of an Ichimoku chart. And when I say traditional, this is not necessarily the way it's going to be plotted in MetaStock, but in this case, it's one of the other Reuters products. And as you'll notice, we have price data here, which almost everybody's familiar with, in this case, open, high, low, close bars. We have 2 indicators here that follow these bars. We have this indicator here that stops a little while back, and we have this big thick indicator here. We're going to go through all of these. They all have different purposes though, and so the first thing we're going to talk about is this one here that's a green indicator that you see my mouse hovering over right here. This indicator is called in the system Kaijin Sin. And what it is it's basically not a 9-period moving average. You'll notice that these are not moving averages, but they kind of operate a lot the way that a moving average would. Instead, what it is it's a 9-period midpoint from the highest to the lowest values of those 9 periods. So to give you an idea of what that is, if we're looking at this point right here, we're looking at the midpoint between that bar and one of the bars down here that would equate to 9 periods back. What makes that interesting is you don't get that really tight closure against your prices like you would in a moving average. Instead, you'll have it where it will move up and then come to middle settle points where it goes flat. And that right there is a very important part, because that, as far as Ichimoku is concerned, shows shifts around an equilibrium point, that the 9 period would be an equilibrium value. And remember, in Japan, 9 periods is 1.5 weeks. For us, it's almost 2, but there it's 1.5. That, however, is contrasted against this other one here that you can see showing up in purple. This one is called the Kaijin Sin. The first one is Tenkan Sen. This one's Kaijin Sin. The Kaijin Sin is calculated the same way as the Tenkan Sen, except instead of it being 9 periods, it's 26 periods. So for 26 periods, we're looking for values that go back 26 in the midpoint between those levels. So for example, if we see that both of these have come down here, we see that here's where the Tenkan Sen, or I'm sorry, the Kaijin Sen is located down here. That would be the midpoint from up here to down here, because that's what's covering, those are the highest and lowest points of those 26 periods. Now, you'll notice that this one acts slower. This purple one acts slower than the green one, the faster. Remember, the faster, the green one's 9, this one's 26. And because of that, it follows up prices a lot more slowly and creates a different type of an equilibrium point. As it moves up, it comes up tighter and tighter, and then we can get points where prices will cross above or below these 2 points. Usually, though, what people will look at is this purple as being acting kind of as a support and resistance line. Now, it doesn't always work, but you will notice that as it comes up, it's pretty good at finding where a general resistance is going to be on this. In this case, though, it switched around and then switched up here. And then you'll start seeing prices come around and bouncing around. Here it comes below this point and then acts as resistance, comes back above, acts as support as it comes up. So one of the signals that you have in Ichimoku is this Tenkan Sen, green line, crossing above this purple line, the Kaijin Sen. Now, it's not as simple as a single cross for Ichimoku, because there's a lot of pieces. Remember, it's trying to look at this global picture, this mosaic of what's going on. But one of those signals is this crossing. So as you can see where it crosses below here, that is for some considered to be an exit signal, where the crossing above would be considered to be a long signal, an entry point. There's more to it when we're going to get to some of that, because now that we've looked at these 2 indicators, we're going to take a look at this big thick one down here. Okay, this is known as the cloud, the Ichimoku cloud. Another way of thinking about it is called the Kumo, and Kumo means cloud. So you'll hear some people say Kumo cloud, and I'll be honest, I may make that mistake and say Kumo cloud, which really just means cloud. We kind of deal with that. But anyway, so if when we're looking at the Kumo here is this big cloud area, and this is considered to be a point of equilibrium. Now, I've kind of given you the idea of how these 2 indicators are calculated. I'm going to tell you how this is calculated as well. But this is a lot harder to look at. This top line here is called the Senku span A. And this right here is calculated by adding, or by taking the midpoint between the Tenkan Sen and the Kaijin Sen, and then shifting that 26 periods into the future. So if we're looking at this point here, and we take this midpoint value and shift it 26 periods into the future, we're going to get a value that's right around here. And same thing, if we're looking at this point here, or I should say at these endpoints here, we're going to be looking at these parts added together and shifted forward. And that's why you can see that these right here are very similar in shape around that midpoint there, which is the same shape we're getting up here. That's the top part of your cloud. The bottom part is calculated the same way that we did the Tenkan Sen and Kaijin Sin. It's doing a 26 period, or it's not a 26 period midpoint. No, it is a 52 period midpoint, shifted 26 periods into the future. So for this, we're looking at the midpoint of the last 52 bars, and then we're shifting that forward, just moving that forward. And that's why these two can come up to end together, is because they're both shifted 26 periods into the future. This is what's considered to be what the equilibrium levels are. This is what the cloud is actually meant to be, is the point of expectation of equilibrium, where prices want to move to. And there has a lot of validity to that. So, you know, if you look right here, you can see prices come up, and then they start hovering around here as the cloud rises to the attention of that, and eventually starts trading within that realm. We can see that in a lot of the history, which we'll actually take a look at when we look at on the MetaStock side. But that's actually a really important part of it, is it provides this area that says, here's where prices want to be, so they're probably not moving anywhere quite yet. This is a big part because Ichimoku is a trend following system. And the point of the cloud is to keep you out when there's not a trend. And that's what it works on, is basically saying, if prices are hovering, there's probably not any trend activity if they're hovering inside the cloud. Here we have an example of that. Prices have come within the cloud, and it's not really considered to be activity. Once it pops outside of the cloud, we see that it starts to go up, and then it starts to revert to where the cloud comes together. Now, in looking at that, we've just kind of addressed another aspect of one of the signals, and that is which side is the prices on compared to the cloud. So here we see that prices are above the cloud. Based on that, we would only take long positions. And if the prices are below the cloud right here, we could be looking for short positions. So that goes to the trend following in there, but also goes to where those signals occur. We want, in our cases of an entry, the basic concept of what we want, the minimum what we're looking for, is for price to be on one side of a cloud and for this Tenkan Sen to be above the Kaijin Sin. Same thing if we're looking for shorts, we want the prices to be below the cloud, not inside of it or above it, but below it, and where the Tenkan Sen is crossed below the Kaijin Sin. Now, it's not necessarily important that it's crossed below up here or in the cloud or down here, but it does require both. So if it crosses up here, let's say it crosses down or up here to create a short position, we want to wait till the prices come outside of the cloud entirely before we start actually taking short positions. If the cross has not occurred, even though prices are down here, we still want to wait for that cross to occur. But the cross can occur outside in that same direction. But usually what ends up happening is if the prices cross up here, or I should say down here if we're looking at the shorts, it's because we had already been short at one point and we're probably looking at a re-entry to go short. Prices had come back a bit and now we're looking for a short re-entry. An example of that we can kind of see going on up here, where if we look, we have in the cloud, there was this Tenkan crossed above the Kaijin. And so we would be looking at getting in at this point here. We had a full bar that closed outside, so we would go ahead and enter and take this up as it went up through here. Now here we get an exit signal if you're using those crosses as an exit. That doesn't mean you necessarily need to. The thing about Ichimoku is there aren't any fixed exit criteria or exit rules. So you want to take that into consideration. There are kind of exit suggestions, but not necessarily exit rules. And we talk about the suggestions that we have inside of Ichimoku Master. But inside of this, as we're looking where the prices come down and then cross above again, it considers this to be a concept of a potential re-entry signal. So that's where you can actually have it occur in the same direction that it's already on of that chart. So in this case, it could go ahead and enter here and then come up. And if it's using the Kaijin Sin here as a stop, it could go ahead and get out, or actually it probably would have gotten out here if you're using that as a concept, or if you're looking for another crossover. Now, again, we're not trying to show you that this right here is like necessarily the best example of where to have necessarily traded the Ichimoku, but we are trying to give you an understanding of the indicators and how they work and why they do what they do. So in this case, we've covered the Tenkan Sen, Kaijin Sen, and the Senko Span A, and then the bottom here, which is Senko Span B. You'll notice that these right here change colors, and the reason why is because sometimes the Senko Span A can be above the B, or it could become below the B. And so it lets you know by color what direction that is. You'll usually see that the A will be above the B when you're in an uptrend and below the B in a downtrend. The nice part, though, is you're also looking at this forward information, which is giving you the idea of where that equilibrium is supposed to be pointing in the future. So, for example, here, we see that this right here is pointing down. That means our equilibrium point is going to start having that kind of direction towards it. One of the things that a lot of people have actually done, and done fairly successfully in a lot of systems, is rather than trading any of the indicators, they only trade the direction of the Senko Span. And they've actually done pretty well with that. That's not the way I use it myself, but it is the way that a lot of people do. And it's shown to be very profitable. I've actually been really surprised at the results myself looking at that. So now we're going to go ahead and take this other indicator back here. This fifth indicator here. This right here is known as the Chiku Span. Now, many people consider it to be the most powerful indicator in Ichimoku. And if that's your philosophy, then that's great. A lot of people do. I personally don't, but that's just a me thing. And so I do consider it to be very valuable, though. It's a very simple indicator that has a lot of meaning. And what it actually is it's the closing price shifted 26 periods back. And you're like, well, why would I care about that? The reason why is because it actually lets you know where prices are related to where they were. So if we can sit here, look back here and say our current prices are below what they have been in the past, then we understand that there's also a lot of that direction downwards. The same way as we notice up here that the prices are now going above where they are in the past, and that's what's a good sign for explosive movements up. So the idea is that you always want to trade in the direction, ideally, that the Chiku Span is above its pricing 26 periods ago. Or I should say the close versus 26 periods ago. Reading this on a chart, however, can be kind of confusing if you're looking back. As long as you're always looking at the current data, like if I'm always just looking right here, it's very easy to see where the endpoint and where I am here. But it's very confusing to sit here and say, well, I'm here, or I'm here. Which bar is actually the one that represents the Chiku Span back here? I'm having a hard time seeing that to know whether it's really above or below the prices are above or below that Chiku Span. Fortunately, Ichimoku Master handles all that for you, and we're going to get into that in just a few minutes. So this right here is the basic rundown of how an Ichimoku chart looks. Now, ideally, what you would be doing is if you're doing trading with Ichimoku, you're probably going to be looking at a couple of time frames when you do that. You could be looking at the daily as well as the weekly Ichimoku charts to make sure that things are in alignment, or to at least give you an idea of what you should or shouldn't be expecting. But like I said, you can start to probably see already some of the advantages of it being a system, that when things are inside the cloud, it keeps you out of a lot of the whipsaws. When it's in a trend, it comes up very well, and the cloud widens. And then as you start to see things as the clouds come together into tight points, that lets you know that historically you've had tight points, but it also lets you know where the equilibrium is going to be shooting towards. So from here, we're going to go ahead and move over to MetaStock's implementation that we've gone ahead and done for that.
Okay. And James asked a question, well, what charting program are you looking at? This doesn't look anything like MetaStock.
That's true. It's not MetaStock. I will have you address that.
It's actually MetaStock Zenith. So that's the charting object that we actually, if you have MetaStock real time, it obviously comes with the news service MetaStock Zenith. And the reason that we're displaying it in here is we can actually display the in MetaStock Zenith in the chart object that is designed in MetaStock Zenith. We can display this forward cloud. Now, right now with MetaStock, there's a bit of a technical limitation. If you're looking at this chart here, we don't have the ability to display the future cloud, which Robert had a really, really pretty ingenious solution. I'll let him talk about that. But so what we wanted to be able to do is show you exactly what this cloud looks like on a chart until we get our chart redesign, which we're working on right now, done. Right now, we only have the ability to draw this indicator to the current line. And I'll let you talk a little bit about what your solution for that was for that, because I thought he did a really good job of kind of allowing you to see what that cloud looks like, even if you don't have MetaStock Zenith.
Well, actually, the solution, we can go ahead and show that right now. And what we've done is we've created this other inner window up here. And this right here is a template that's provided with Ichimoku Master so that you don't have to keep applying it yourself. But what we have is this right here is the Ichimoku indicator that comes with MetaStock with all the parameters set correctly and everything so that you can see it up to this point. But to be able to get the projection forward, what I've gone ahead and done is plotted the closing prices 26 periods ago up here and then shown the other two indicators, the Senko span A and B, going forward so we can see what the cloud components of that are. So looking at that, we're able to go ahead and, like I said, see what kind of pieces are tied on that. Now, looking at that, what we're going to do is I'm actually going to take focus off of this part right here for right now. And we're just going to go ahead and look at this part of the chart, because what we're really wanting to do is not necessarily look at the chart itself, but we're going to go ahead and show you what Ichimoku Master does for you. So far, everything I've told you about is stuff that you could actually do on your own. You don't necessarily need Ichimoku Master to do it. You can go ahead and work with the Ichimoku indicator in MetaStock and create your own indicators to do that. But the real power of Ichimoku Master comes in its ability to evaluate the information for you. And through that, what we're going to do is we're going to show you the expert advisor. Now, Jeff has already had it applied, or the template has already applied it here. And we can see certain things that are going on already. So for example, right here, we can see that the prices are being highlighted as well as the trends are being highlighted for where prices are. So for example, if prices are above the Kumo, then it's letting you know that all the prices are above the Kumo. Here we see that prices are inside the Kumo where you wouldn't want to be looking at any trades at all. And here we've got prices above the Kumo again. Here we can see where the prices went below and it goes ahead and goes red. And here's some below Kumo activity as well. And as we take that forward and back, we can see that it follows along. Here's an example of a great trend that it picked up. It waited for it to go ahead and come outside of the cloud and then goes ahead and grabs onto that and say, we're going to go ahead and haul that puppy all the way to the top. Now, along with that, we also see some of the symbols that are here. Here, for example, you can see where the indicators have crossed and are giving those signals. In this case, some of the coloring is different than we just looked at on Zenith. What we have here is this right here is now going to be our Tenkan Sen, this purple one. And the red one is our Kaijin Sin. And this is, of course, the cloud. I was about to say Kumo cloud, but that would be redundant. What the heck? The Kumo cloud. Anyway, we'll go ahead and look at that and see that here we can see where it crossed below and then crossed above. And so we've got the arrows on the chart for that. We can see this one crossed down below, and it gives the arrows for that. Just so you understand, these are not absolute trading signals. They're more signals to let you know what's going on with it. There's a lot of pieces that you want to have aligned, and we'll go ahead and show you that in the expert in just a moment. Now, in this, like I said, we've gone ahead and done those highlighting, let you see those indicators, but we want to go ahead and show you how the expert advisor is interpreting a lot of this information and what the value of it is. This right here is the expert advisor tied to this chart. And I'm hoping people are familiar with the expert advisor. I don't know how many of you are actually MetaStock users right now.
About 60%, or about 40%.
Are MetaStock users.
Correct.
Okay.
Well, at least of the ones that answered the poll.
That's true. Okay. Thanks for answering the poll, all of you. That was great. So this is what the Ichimoku Master is doing for you inside of that. With the MetaStock product, there is an expert advisor system that allows for clear text interpretations of things. And we're going to go ahead and show you what's going on here. This is an example of an interpretation that is occurring right here on the current bar of data. This is the last day data that come in, so this is as of today. As we look at it, what it's doing is letting you know that here are the actual values of what's occurring, but it also gives you a very quick way to look at what behavior is going on based upon the Ichimoku. And it does it through several position informations here. So for example, it's letting you know what is the current position of the TK, of the Tenkan Sen versus the Kaijin Sin, so the cross. In this case, it's letting you know that it's a bearish cross, so it's crossing from the Tenkan Sen is crossing from above to below, or has crossed from above to below. And it also lets you know what kind of cross it is, whether the cross occurred above the cloud or within the cloud or below the cloud. In this case, the cross has occurred inside of the cloud. That's what's known as a neutral TK cross, a neutral Tenkan Kaijin cross. And so it's letting you know that that right there is bearish right now. Now, next thing we see for this bar, we're seeing that we're looking at the price to Kumo relationship. And what it's looking for is that the current price is inside of the cloud. What it really wants to look at is that there is a close above or below the cloud. Ideally, the whole bar would be good, but you're looking for at least the close to be above or below. So in this case, the price is inside of the cloud. That's a neutral position. Whenever the price is inside a cloud, that's its equilibrium point. So it says the trade entry is not recommended. You can always trade the way that you want and you feel is optimal for you, but it's letting you know that that's not going to be following the Ichimoku method. Here we see that the current Kumo direction is bullish. Now, just to make sure that's very clear, when we're looking at the Kumo direction in this part here, it's not looking at the Kumo that we see right here. Actually, my mistake. The current Kumo direction is exactly the one that's looking right here. But we're also looking at the future Kumo direction, where it is 26 periods in the future. So I apologize for that mistake on that. So right now we see the current Kumo direction is bullish, and that's because this right here, the Senko span A is above the Senko span B. But 26 periods forward, it's pointing bearish in the opposite direction. So that's letting you know that while you might have bullish stuff now, it's trying to go towards a bearish position. Now, Chiku span in relation to the Kumo. And that's another part right here. We see the Chiku span is inside the Kumo right here. Because of that, that's showing that the equilibrium point is trying to be very consistent with where it was. And so, like I said, for the last 26 periods, it's still, the Kumo has been following, or that whole range. So that's where its equilibrium point is. And that's why it's saying, it's neutral. It's not really bearish or bullish. Because of that, it really is not recommended to be trading at all either, because it's just not ready to do so. And it is comparing the Chiku span back here against prices back here rather than any kind of point that'd be looking up here. It's really easy to see that now, but it's not as easy to see that when we start looking at past data, which we're going to do in a moment. Okay, so we see that, and then we have the Chiku span in relation to price, which we talked about. And here we can see that the Chiku span back here is below prices, so it's letting us know that that's bearish. And then periods until or since the Kumo twist, and in this case, it's letting us know the 26 periods out is when the Kumo twist occurs. Now that's when your Senko span A crosses above or below Senko span B. So even though you can't see it on the chart, it's letting us know that in 26 periods is where the twist goes to turn down, which is why our future Kumo direction is bearish. So it's letting you know as a countdown how long it's going to be till that occurs, so you can go ahead and look at the strength that's been occurring and building up at that point. So this is a very quick way to see exactly what the signals are. Just a quick look to say, I get what's going on. Along with that, we also have the support and resistance points based upon the Kaijin resistance that we talked about and the Senko span A and B, which are also considered to be support and resistance points. Now, for people who are not very familiar with Ichimoku, even though I'm talking and walking you through it very, very quickly, it might be too much, and you might sit here and say, I'm still not getting it, I still need some work with it. Fortunately, Ichimoku Master does some explanation, and it does several types of explanations. For each of those signals, you'll see that what we do is we provide a description of what the signal actually is. It will tell you what the signal is comprised of, why we look at it. And then in each one, you'll have this blue here, which tells you what is going on with this signal on this chart right now. So this right here is a general description of the signal, and this part right here is specific to the chart that it's looking at. We can see that we're covering the TK signal, the fact that closes above and or below the Kumo, current Kumo direction and future, Chiku span relationships, and stops and exits. And we give the concepts that people consider to be stops within it. So in this case, if you were in a system, the only available stop that would even be able to be considered would be a loose stop here at the Senko span B, somewhere up here. Since it's already below the A, or I should say in this case, if it's short, it's already above the A, and it would already be nowhere near the Tenkan San available at that point. But these will change depending upon whether you're looking at a loose stop, a medium stop, or a tight stop, depending upon how far it is in the trade, assuming that a trade had been taken. Now, along with this, here's one of the nice things is we can actually take this and go back and evaluate other data. So I can take this right here and do a quick look back here on September 6th, where this is highlighted right here, and it'll give me an evaluation that I can be looking at right here. So from that, it can give me all the information of what's going on at this point. Usually, it's not good to necessarily get into a chart that's already been in motion. Instead, you're wanting to get into a chart that's going into motion. So you're looking for these colors to all go towards the same direction as opposed to be hanging out in the same direction for some period of time. So in this case, we'd be looking for other things to come together. So for example, here's a nice thing. It says that a Kumo twist occurred 1 period ago. In this case, it's looking forward to this, or it's looking back to a Kumo twist right here, saying this occurred 1 period ago. But that could also say a Kumo twist will occur in so many periods if it's looking forward. If I come forward here, we can like to look for other Kumo twist information. So like right here, a Kumo twist will occur in 14 periods. And it lets us know that here's one that's coming up. So it's really important at letting you know that very quickly. You don't have to count it yourself or figure out when looking at past data. And that's been one of the hardest things for people to work with Ichimoku, is trying to understand what they're actually looking at when they're looking at the past. And you want to look at the past because that's where you gain your confidence. That's where you know, yes, I have faith in this system, as opposed to, well, I only see it on the current bars where it's easy to figure pieces out. So this right here runs through all of those signals for you and recalculates them on the fly. Now, as we're looking at here, you might sit here and say, I've been doing really good. I don't necessarily need all this information. It's a lot of information, and I don't want to keep reading this every time. In fact, I get what the signals are. I've been there. I've done that. I'm good with that. I want to go ahead and get rid of that. Well, we have different versions of the Expert Advisor for the Ichimoku, where you can go ahead and say, you've advanced a little. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of these descriptions and go to description free. And now that I've done that, I'm going to go ahead and look at this now and just apply this. It's not going to give me the descriptions anymore because I already got that. Instead, it's just going to give you the information about each of these trades. And so you can go ahead and say, what's going on with this now? What's going on with this now? Until you get really comfortable with it. Now, let's say you've come to the point, you get all of that. You understand what the signals mean. You just need the quick thing to tell you what's really going on right now. Then again, you get to go ahead and go to a very simple and minimal Expert Advisor that just turns it strictly into these flat signals and say, here's the values, here's what we're looking at, here's support and resistance position, and any stops, if any. So coming through, we can go ahead and quickly go into there, move on. It lets us know what stops can be available, support and resistance points, and what the signals are as they're moving along. So that's the real great point about Ichimoku Master is it goes ahead and does all that evaluation for you, and you can go back through all the history of the chart while you figure out how it's working for you and where you're comfortable with it. This has been done trying to be as close to the actual Ichimoku method as possible. I say that because there's a lot of products out there where they will take the Ichimoku method but put their own spin on it. In this case, this product has tried to remain as true as possible to the actual original concept that was released 50 years ago. So that's where a lot of these rules and concepts come from. You can go ahead and change and alter it to yourself, and you're going to want to do that. Figure out what works for you, how comfortable you are with stops, what signals you're really looking for to all align together to do the entries. But in general, like I said, this is giving the suggestions and recommendations, or I shouldn't say real recommendations, it's giving the rules according to the Ichimoku concept, the Ichimoku method. And it really is a trading method. It's not an actual system. It's more of a method. So this right here is, like I said, one of the main features of this. But there's another feature for those of you that are familiar with MetaStock. You already know about the Explorer. And Ichimoku Master takes full advantage of the Explorer. The Explorer actually will go through stocks looking for conditions and parameters that are existing right now as you are looking for signals. One of the things is you don't necessarily want to say, I'm going to look at this chart every single day and I've got 1,000 charts I want to look through. You really don't want to look through 1,000 charts looking for the ones that might have an entry coming along right now. Instead, you kind of want to have something that say, look for it for me. And that's kind of what computers are for. And that's what Ichimoku Master has done for you as well. We've gone ahead and put this into an exploration that will actually go and look through all of your stocks, and it will show you what is going on with each of these on any stock that generates a new entry concept for that day, or it doesn't have to be a stock, it can be a commodity or whatever kind of product you're looking at, whatever kind of instrument. But it will let you know very quickly what those are doing, and you can even sort by them. I'm going to have Jeff here actually walk you through the expert advisor here for MetaStock so you can see how that works and we can look at some of the results. Care if I pass it off?
Yeah, sure. So the idea here, and I think what we'll kind of do is just kind of do a real quick scan, kind of show you how the reports look. So if I open up my Power Console in MetaStock, those of you that have MetaStock know that the Explorer is what we call our scanner. And so what it's designed to do is actually go through and kind of help you find the best opportunities, whether that's you're looking at it from the Ichimoku Master type of an idea or something else. So in this product, what we've got here is we've got the Ichimoku signal scan. Okay, and if you hover over here, it's going to kind of tell you what it's looking for. You've got your main entry signals, your re-entry signals, both long and short. I'm going to go ahead and just check mark this. We're going to run it real quick on a small list of securities. So what I'm going to do is I'll go ahead and select Ichimoku as a scan. And down here I can select the list that I want to scan against. And with MetaStock, for those of you that aren't familiar with it, what it's going to allow you to do is it's going to allow you to scan just about anything you're interested in. And I mean just about anything. If you see this little number here, 381,847, that's literally the amount of instruments that you could scan against. So, and what I mean by that is if you're an Asian, you want to follow Australian stocks, you can apply this with Australian stocks. If you're in Europe and maybe you want to do like Bucharest, or you want to do London, or you want to do the Oman Stock Exchange, or maybe you want to do the Stockholm Exchange, you're going to have access to that information. In North America, what we do is we break it down by exchange, or by symbol type. You can do ETFs, mutual funds. You can look at just the stuff that's available from an optional perspective. We also have some great coverage in South America. I was interested when you guys, we had in that survey at the first of the hour, I said, where are you from? And at least somebody was from somewhere else. Like every category was picked out today. So welcome to all of you that are international. You can do it with futures. What I'm going to do just to do a quick scan is I'm going to run a scan just against the Dow Industrials, the 30 stocks that make up the Dow Industrials. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a daily scan, and I'm going to do it for today. Okay, so I've selected the Dow here. Hopefully we'll get some results. If not, we'll do the S&P maybe. I'm going to scan the current
I
day.
would say do the S&P because while the Dow may come up, you also want to look at the variations of the signals that come up too.
Okay, so we'll do the Dow and the S&P 500. And the only reason is that I don't want to do all of the optionables. We certainly could do that. The thing is the more bandwidth that you're using, the longer it's going to take, if that makes sense. And we're broadcasting right now, and it might take like 4 or 5 minutes to actually complete that, which is a little bit of dead time. So we'll do the Dow, and we'll also do the S&P 500. I'm going to go ahead and leave everything set as daily. The current date, you can go ahead and scan in the past if you want to be able to find signals that happened 6 months ago and kind of play them forward. You could do that. But we'll go ahead and start this as a scan. It's going to run through 505 securities. I guess I just selected the S&P. But you'll see that it's rejecting about 98% of the stocks. So probably the S&P 500 was a good idea. So we'll go ahead and let that run. It's only going to take about a minute or so to run through, and kind of show you how it works. While we do that, there is a question: can we customize the scan for not all of the conditions? For example, only cross of the cloud and Chiku span.
Actually, something to consider for that is that unlike a lot of the other MetaStock products, we have actually opened up our DLL to be allowed for development. And in the manual, we let you know how to access the indicators that we've created. So you would have to go ahead and do that yourself. You could do it with MetaStock. But unlike a lot of the plugins that just require to use it the way it is, we've opened that up so you can do your own development. You don't have to. You can use the product exactly the way it is. But we do give you the tools and the explanation. So using the MetaStock language, you can go ahead and say, this is what I'm looking for, and here's the signals. And we actually let you call references to those signals exactly. So yes, you could in fact do that.
Paul asked the question, Forex, question mark?
Actually, interesting you mentioned that, because I personally don't do stocks. I do Forex, and I use Ichimoku in Forex. Ichimoku is really awesome if you're working it with things like the Japanese yen, which is kind of makes sense. It was based around a Japanese product. But since it is a trend following system and you have really good trends that occur in Forex, yes, you're certainly, I mean, the longer the time period, the better it works on a lot of those when you're dealing with Forex. You know, it's hard to go ahead and say it's going to work well on a 5-minute Forex chart. You know, it can. I don't. I personally work with hourly, and I'll do 4-hour charts. A lot of people have really good experience working with daily, though, especially though. But I personally am a 1-hour and 4-hour trader. So yes, it is absolutely Forex, because that's my primary trading instrument of choice is Forex.
So we're looking at the report today. This is S&P 500 export right now. So what are we looking at here with the signal column?
That's really great. What we're showing here, like I said, this provides a lot of information very quickly. What it's letting you know is first we have is what kind of signal it is. And we see that this ranges between +2, +1, and -2 and -1 if they're available. And what it's letting you know is, remember how we talked at the beginning about how there was a primary entry when it came above the cloud and the TK was working together? That would be your initial entry. And so we've given that a strong signal of a 2. But there's a time when it could pull back and then go back in the same direction. And for that, we've given that a value of 1. So we let you know what kind of signal it is, whether it's a primary or whether it's a re-entry signal. So if it's a plus value, that infers that it's going to be a long position. And if it's a negative value, it will be a short, or just considered to be positive or bullish, and negatives or bearish. And so in this case, we see that there's primary entry signals up here that are going to be long entry positions on these. These are going to be short entries, and they're all primary positions.
So if I'm looking to go long, we started with 500 stocks.
Right.
We've already narrowed that down to maybe a dozen that I have to look at.
If you're looking only for long positions only, then yeah, you just by sorting it here, you can change the sort parameter. I can sort it just by the signal and say, right here's my cutoff, because I'm only looking for primary entries.
Okay.
Primary long entries, because those are the ones that are twos.
So now, and then the TK cross, did you have, what does that kind of tell us right there?
That's letting us know what kind of signal it is, what kind of cross it is. And so in this case, when you're looking at the two in this case, it's trying to let you know that one is occurring below the cloud, and then a two would be inside of the cloud, and then a three would be going above the, or across above the cloud. Okay, so in this case, you also see that there's also some zeros. Those are neutral ones. Those are ones that aren't actually crossing. Those are ones that are actually just kind of hovering at the same value together, that the cross isn't actually occurring right now. So this lets you know where that is, whether it's, like I said, above or below for the last TK cross, but that a signal has occurred. So
okay,
yeah.
So when then we've got the cross Kumo, the current Kumo,
here are all those things that were labeled on the expert that were bullish and bearish.
And just to tell you what we're meaning, like what we're getting here is, and I'm just going to close the expert for a minute, is you're going to have like the main signal or the main entry signal. Everything else Robert talked about is a confirmation
is a
that
support signal.
Yeah,
correct.
It's either bullish or it's bearish, or it can it be neutral?
Some of them can be neutral. Yes.
So without even opening up the chart, what we can see from that report, and let me just open up the report again, is we can see out of these 6 things that are either bearish or bullish or neutral, how many, what our score equals.
Correct. And so yeah, you'll see that, for example, in this top one up here, if we go ahead and sort it right here, we can see that this right here is being a +1 is bullish. Remember, if it's positive, it's bullish. If it's negative, it's bearish. So current Kumo direction is also bullish. Future Kumo direction is bearish. Chiku span Kaijin Sin, or I'm sorry, the Chiku span Kumo is bullish. The Chiku span price is neutral. Okay, so in looking at those pieces, and like I said, our TK cross is bullish. So these 6 signals come together along with our neutral and our negative, give us a score of 3. Now, you may want to go ahead and look at that, or maybe not. It's really up to you. But it lets you know, so for example, here, we're seeing that all of these 6 signals are all positive. These are all bearish coming together on this signal right here.
He meant bullish.
I'm sorry, my bad. When you start rambling them off so fast, you start confusing yourself.
I'm here to keep you honest.
And I appreciate that. I do appreciate that. So yeah, so in this case, like I said, all of these are bullish signals giving you a 6. And you know, you can, like I said, certainly see what a lot of these things are doing on this. So anyways, like I said, that's where a lot of this is happening, and what's kind of going on all this.
And you said before you're looking for a score of at least 4?
I look for a score of 4.
Okay.
That's my thing, is I'm looking for 4. I don't need them all to be in alignment, because usually what's the reason I'm looking at that is if you're all in alignment, a lot of times you're already kind of pushed into the trend. But if I'm looking at 4, I'm expecting them, and if I'm getting involved and it looks good, then I'm expecting them to start pushing towards all 6 of them in alignment, as opposed to being there already.
Okay.
So, but that's a me thing. A lot of people like to stay with the 6s only. Like I said, I prefer 4 in the direction of the trade.
Let's look at some charts.
All right.
I've got, so what I did is I took the 2s, the long entries, and again, what that means is it's the first signal after price crosses above the cloud. Okay. And then, so what I've done is, actually,
yeah, there was a 3
took in the 2s and then the 4s, and we could still look at these 6s. I want to look at...
You can. And like I said, and I would, don't misunderstand, I would still look at the 6s. I'm not opposed to looking at them. I'm just willing to go down to 4.
Oh, right.
So that's
we could look at some more. Actually, let's pull up a few of them, and we'll just kind of go through the rules exactly, kind of how they would appear and kind of how somebody would use this. So I just opened up 4 charts. 2 of them are 6s and 2 of them are 4s.
Okay.
But they're all entry signals.
They're all long entry signals specifically.
Now what I want to do...
we didn't do it with the...
yeah, let's apply the template.
Apply the template, yeah.
Okay, Ichi. Okay. We'll talk about this advanced in a second.
In just a second.
Yeah. So we'll go ahead. This is Marsh, MMC. Okay. And this one had a score of, I guess, 4.
Right, because this one right here is bearish, so it pulls it down between neutral and to negative.
Okay.
So, you know, that's fine.
What are your thoughts on this one?
If I were looking at this one right here, I would say just because of its behavior, I'd still probably take a legitimate look at this one as something to be getting into. The thing that I'm primarily looking at, though, is this one right here is a support, and it's not that important of a support. We put it in, I mean, or as a support or condition, not necessarily a support resistance. But here's the thing, like I said, the current or the future current Kumo direction is bullish. The current one is bearish. So the one that is already in, but this right here is switched and turning bullish. So when it says it occurs 26 periods, it's actually saying right up here is actually occurred. So looking at that, this would be one of those ones that turns into a 6 in my mind that I'd be looking at. So to me, this right here is a very valid signal, especially looking at its ability in history to go ahead and follow these trends. Seeing that it does work on that. You know, there's always that thing of past performance is not indicative of future results. And yes, that is absolutely true.
And by the way, it's not a recommendation to buy or sell.
No, I'm looking as far as what I'm looking at. Like I said, past performance is not indicative. However, we don't have anything else really to go by. And so looking at how Ichimoku has been working on this in the past, I myself would certainly take that as something to get in for myself, to look at that, especially for the fact that it's a long position. Looking at that, it is grabbing these trends. It is grabbing these long trends that have been occurring recently and grabbing them pretty well. So with that, I would certainly be looking at taking a lot of that to do that. Again, my trading strategy. I'm not a stock fan myself at the moment, but have been in the past.
Primary Forex, right?
But I'm primarily Forex.
We had a question about that. Do you use other tools with your Forex?
I do, and we're talk about that when we talk about the advanced, or the Ichimoku advanced.
I'm pushing this a little bit. Let's look at one more of these 4 examples.
Sure.
Let's see what we had here. Peg, Mark, let's do Kellogg.
Okay.
That looks let's go ahead and apply the template. So we can apply the template. I just didn't initially. So let's go ahead and open it up. We're going to go ahead and do the Ichimoku complete here. Okay. We'll go ahead and that'll add all of the indicators for us. It'll add the future cloud up here for us.
And so here's one that we had all of 6s and stuff.
Yeah, this one was all 6.
Yeah,
it was totally bullish across the board.
Yeah. Me personally, again, we're talking about me personally. This thing has been in the middle of a large general downtrend. It may have pulled up a little. I personally would not be trading this myself, not because I consider the indicators themselves to be bad, but remember the whole point of Ichimoku is to show you what's going on overall. And I normally would be looking at the current time frame and a larger time frame, which we're not doing here. We're only looking at the current time frame. But looking at this here, it does seem to be generally a bearish type of situation that has some bullish moments. If this had given a bearish signal, I very well could be looking at it if this were all in the same direction and bearish. That would, again, my thing, not anyone else's thing. That would be my thing.
Joseph, just post your question. He says, I have Ichimoku Master. He forgot to type this out, but I think he meant it, and I love it. He didn't type that out, but I think he just forgot.
Oh, okay.
He says he has 2 questions.
Okay.
Go ahead and type them in. We'll answer him. Okay.
So so like in this case, it would be a me thing that I would necessarily pull on that. But I would look at the chart very quickly to go ahead and grab that. And then we're waiting for his question to come
question 1 is, I find it difficult to see the crosses because of the colors. Can I change the colors? You know, he finds it difficult.
You can change the colors of the indicators on your chart. What it doesn't do, however, is change the indicators that are in the expert advisor. So you might change these indicators that you're looking at here, but these right here, however, are fixed colors. So because this is the way how they default in MetaStock, and so that's why we're following that. There really, unfortunately, isn't anything we can do about that at this point. The expert advisor doesn't have knowledge as to what you're doing on your chart. It does it does all of its calculations internally.
Now, and then in terms of changing the actual colors, because I think you just might be a little bit, I'll just show you exactly how to change the colors. Just double click on it. You will have the different lines all kind of displayed right here.
And a quick thing when looking at that, you'll see that these parameters here for Chiku span and horizontal shift are 27 instead of 26s. That's done on purpose because of the way how MetaStock represents Ichimoku, and we have actually fixed that in our Ichimoku master to be able to do that the way that everybody else would recognize it, just so you know.
So if you just click over to this color style, all of the different indicators are going to be shown. And what you'll do is, if you want to change the purple line, just come to the purple line. It'll be purple. You'll notice the purple line, and then you can change it to whatever color. So it's very easy. Just double click on it. Yeah. Second question. When will MetaStock update the future Chicken Sin crosses? We're working on it, Joseph. And he did add, I do love it. So I found that most of the time, if you ask for a compliment, you'll get a compliment. Okay. At least that's been my experience.
Well, and I appreciate that. Thank you very much. I'm glad to hear that you like the product.
Yeah, thank you for that, Joseph.
So hopefully he's also one of the users of the advanced tool. Now, just to give people an idea, what we're going to show you in the advanced thing, this is going to be my thing that I have. Mm-hmm. It's something that if you purchase MetaStock, or you add MetaStock and you purchase Ichimoku Master, you can get access to an additional template and indicator for free, one that I personally use. This is like my secret sauce indicator that I like to use.
It's also instant access. It's right there on your downloads page.
Yeah, you'll get it on your downloads page, and they'll make sure they're provided. It's not actually included in the product, but you get it automatically anyway. And what it is it's another indicator. We're going to go ahead and change this. We're going to do the other template, go down to Ichimoku. Advanced. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And there's a third indicator up here. And basically what this is this right here shows you how far away the price is from the Kumo, and the Kaijin Sin is from the Kumo. And the reason that I use this is because this lets me know where I can really expect to start looking at trends. So for example, give you a little bit more, this right here is actually dynamic for that. This is not done by absolute prices. It's done by the relative distance according to the sizes of the prices at the time. And so for example, I'm looking for there to be 2 ATRs away of prices. And with that is usually when I can look for the best trends to occur for them to get in. I've noticed for myself that when it's hovering around this middle area is when it's not necessarily trending at all. It may be outside of the cloud, but it's probably not necessarily ready for a big explosive growth. I'm looking for there to be big moves outside of it. So if I see that there's something that I am looking at trading, then I would go ahead and wait for it to pop out of here before I hop on board, because I really don't want to be whipsawed. And this cuts down a large number of whipsaws for me. You get this for free when you purchase it, or at least on your downloads page. It does require Ichimoku Master to run, but this will be provided for you so that you can see it. And like I said, you don't have to use it, but this is what I personally use. So this would be where somebody says, you can learn our method for doing things. Well, this is my method that I use. This is my personal adjustment to the Ichimoku concept. And it doesn't really change Ichimoku. It just says, I really kind of want some kind of additional confirmation that there's going to be a concept of a movement if I'm in fact looking at getting in on that signal.
We sat down and recorded a bit of a video too.
We actually have a whole thing on using this.
So when you, if this is something that you're interested in, one of the things is, what month did we do that? We sat down in here,
I think it was October.
We did maybe like an hour and a half training. Yeah. You did a part that lasted a while. I did a part. I think it was a bit over an hour. But you talk exactly about how you use this to implement your trades.
Right.
And then I go through, and I did a bit of a section that just kind of shows you how to manipulate it from a perspective of using MetaStock. This is how you set up your scan. This is how the expert advisor looks. And so the thing about those are, if you order those, you're going to get access to that for as soon as you place your order.
Yeah, so, and you want to watch that. It was an advanced training session.
Oh yeah.
And so, yeah, you get access to that video and that indicator, and so you can go ahead and learn all about that.
Robert, are you saying that you trade Forex and exclusively use Ichimoku Master and no other software?
I use it because you could say this right here is my other software. This is that secret sauce, this indicator here. This is what I'm looking at to do it because it helps me identify when those breakouts are primarily occurring. That's why I'm saying that's my method, that I've done my own adjustment to it so that I can work on that. What you're not necessarily seeing me do here, though, is you're not seeing me look at multiple time frames, which is absolutely what I'll be doing. If I'm trading a 1 hour chart, I'm also going to be looking at a 4 hour chart with Ichimoku as well. And if I'm doing a 4 hour chart, I'm also going to be looking at a daily chart.
We had a question earlier about if it works on weekly.
Absolutely, it works on weekly, and that's another part of the cloud which you would typically be looking at. The whole point of this is to be looking at those multiple time frames because they give you insights as to what the markets as a whole are doing, and that's actually part of the Ichimoku methodology, is to do that all the way back 50 years ago. That was what he was recommending back then.
Did you tell him what Ichimoku means?
Well, that's what we were talking about, like equilibrium at a glance.
Yeah, or one chart at a glance.
Yeah, one chart at a glance, looking at a view to give you a quick thing.
It can be a little bit. Here's the thing that that kind of I think about it, because it can be a little bit intimidating at first. All of a sudden, you throw up a chart and you're looking at 6 different indicators, and it's kind of a little bit hard to simplify it, but it's actually not that complicated. The thing that I like about Robert's product, and I've said this before, but literally there are people that go in and they'll teach you for a few $1,000s to several $1,000s exactly how to trade Ichimoku. And they don't even go into kind of the level of detail this product will. So by getting the product, it's going to put together the commentary for you where it's going to show you exactly with the buy and sell signals where the entry signals occur. But then it's also going to say, okay, this is bullish, and this is bearish, and this is bullish. And it's really going to lay that all out for you. And then you have, and let's just show it again. Then you have the expert commentary, and we need to attach the expert to this chart.
Expert for this, yeah.
You have the expert commentary that really goes in here. Let's see.
There you go.
We'll do the complete. I still do the complete. I don't know. But you have the thing that kind of goes through and tells you this black part is going to tell you this is what a TK signal is, and then the blue part tells you how that relates to the chart. So it really walks you through, and you can come back in tomorrow and see kind of how that changes, but it walks you through what you should be looking at and what it's actually doing.
Should be looking at it, and why it matters. And so, yeah, instead of spending thousands of dollars on somebody doing it, this right here, you have somebody walking you through it every day, telling you here's why we're looking at what we're looking at.
And then after you're done learning it, it's a system that's been proven since for 50 years.
1968, yeah. This is its 50-year anniversary.
Once you learn it, then you've also got the added bonus of having like a scanning tool that allows you to kind of go in. And if you're an options trader, quickly identify, we just did it in the S&P 500. We looked at 12 stocks. We had a list of just the ones. And then we narrowed that down before we even opened up a chart to 4 that had a 4 in our long entry signal, exactly what we were looking for. So good job with this. It's been,
thank you.
It's been very, very well received. Barbara was right to give it a strong review. If you still have more questions, paste them in. You're welcome, Paul. I'm glad we answered your question for you. But let's kind of talk a little bit about what this is. Oh, and here's the picture. Ichimoku Sanjin. Yeah. Also, what was his actual name?
It was like
Goicho Hasada. Yeah. Okay. So as part of this, again, what you're going to get is you're going to get all of the buy conditions. Really, there's only 2 buy conditions and sell conditions. So the main entry and the long entry, but you'll get all the supporting information.
It does it as well.
And it breaks it all down for you.
And you can go back and forth along dates. That's the best part, is you can get familiar with it and train yourself and look at all those interpretations on each bar to see how it would be looking, so you can get that feel factor that you need.
So you get the 3 expert advisors, the scan. You do have testing. If you want to go in and do some system testing with MetaStock, you can do that. We're not going to show it today, but you know how the system tester works. If you don't have MetaStock, the system tester is really, really good at kind of evaluating how well something works. This is only $399. It's a one-time cost. It's not something you have to pay over and over and over again. Once you pay for it, you own it. We do back it with our 30-day money-back guarantee. And if you want to try it out, that seems like a pretty low-risk scenario for me. Okay, $299, one-time cost. If you don't like it, well, we'll give you your money back. So for those of you that don't have MetaStock, we're going to include a 30-day trial of MetaStock. And I'd encourage you to try it. We didn't talk a lot about MetaStock, but I'm going to give a little spiel for it right now. MetaStock, I think the biggest thing I can say about it is it's been rated #1 by the readers of Stocks and Commodities magazine every single year since 1994. It's a long time.
Mm-hmm. Well, the best in its price range. I think isn't that what it is?
Yeah, best in its price range.
Yeah, because this is the best thing. It's like if you're spending that kind of money on a product, there is nothing better.
So give it a try. Now, we do have people that are logged in. They can answer specific questions for you. You can give them a call. They're all nice guys. 800-882-3040. If you're international and you want to chat, you can go through our secure chat at metastock.com/sales-chat. And you can also order online at metastock.com/TSA-Aichi. As soon as you get your order placed, you're going to have access to the product. If you need MetaStock, you can actually sign up right on the page for MetaStock. You'll also have instant access to that training session, that advanced class that we put together about an hour long, and then the bonus download that kind of gives you the additional indicators that Robert uses. So Rodrigo asked the question, is there any back test indicators in the add-on? Yeah, we included some back testing, so you can go in and do some back testing if you want. So that's the end of the questions. I want to say thank you, Robert, for coming in and spending some time with us.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming. All of you guys that attended it, I appreciate it. And I will see you at the next webinar. Thanks for coming, guys.